Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? I rarely use a handheld mic. It's kind of exciting for me. I feel old school. Welcome to our panel. We have 30 minutes, and we've got a lot to talk about. So I'm just going to jump right in and allow my guests to give you a 30-second introduction, and then I will go last. So, Harrison.
Thank you. Okay, let's see if this is working. My name is Harrison Ward. I'm with RMWBH. We're about a 150-person law firm based out of Houston, mostly based in Texas. I'm the director of technology and been there about 2 years. My background before that was e-discovery and computer forensics, and that's kind of the short introduction. Yeah.
My name is Leon Carelli. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Locke's Law Firm. We're based in the Philadelphia area with offices in New York and New Jersey. We've got about 75 staff, 25 attorneys, but a caseload numbering in the 8,000 to 10,000 range. A lot of class actions, personal injury, and products liability. Been there for 13 years.
And I'm Brian King from North Carolina. We have King Law offices, 14 locations in North and South Carolina. We have 20 attorneys and 50 employees. Most of our cities that we work in have 3,000 people or less in them, so it's a very small town type practice with a lot of people kind of covering over that. So I'm really excited about being part of the panel.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me on the panel. So I am Katy Goshtasbi, and welcome to San Diego. This is my hometown. A lot of people get to welcome you, but we locals like to really welcome you. I am a recovering lawyer, whatever that means. I was a securities lawyer for 14 years in Washington, D.C. I was a federal lobbyist, so I saw how that sausage is made. I was at the Securities Exchange Commission when Enron blew up, for those of you who remember what Enron is. I was at a major law firm, and then I was in-house. So I've kind of been all around the legal industry. And then I saw the light of day, and I switched careers, and now what I do has to do with defining the employees within the organization so we can build their brand, so we can build the business brand and help leverage growth and change within law firms and organizations. And I'll talk more about that tomorrow. I plug for my talk tomorrow at 11 a.m. on the business law track around developing your brand for the change in the future. But today, we are here to talk about really what lessons have these three gentlemen with their practices and their employees really learned about scaling technology broadly in general, okay? And what are some things we all need to learn from it? So first I want to start off by asking you guys to talk about, well, first of all, sorry about this. Let me back it up and let's do a poll. So how many of you are in admin for your firm? Okay, and how many of you are practicing lawyers? And how many of you do both? Leon said to ask. Okay, yeah, let's be honest. Like, who doesn't sometimes? Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. That's very helpful. So first, let's talk about what recommendations do you guys have in terms of consideration of technology and then actually implementation of that technology. So just those two things, consideration and implementation of technology, and then later on we'll address the people element. So whoever wants to go first.
As a managing partner with a practice like we have, and I imagine out of see a lot of practicing attorneys out there who are making a lot of the decisions. It's important to make sure that you've got full buy-in in any of the kind of decisions and things like that that you're making. I think that for us, being able to make decisions on technology, it has to be something that is going to be used when I'm not looking, if that makes sense. And I think that that's an important piece of any of the scaling that you're going to be doing. I have to be able to use the technology myself. I have to be able to understand it. We have a firm technologist, and I'm really excited about hearing what these guys have to say about this problem, because I do think that it is very difficult. But I think it's important in order to make that decision. First of all, what's that usability? And I think a lot of times we go to the bells and whistles with any new technology, and we forget about the fact that it's got to be usable. And I think that that's, for me, the first piece of the puzzle that I'm looking at when I'm looking at making any kind of changes or implementing a new program within our system.
Yeah, I would completely and totally agree. One of the things that's easy to lose sight of when you're considering any new technology, at the outset, sit down, write out what your ultimate goals are, and stick to that. That is your gospel, that is your word. It's very easy to get distracted by feature sets, right? As you start looking into things, oh, this product does this neat thing, it does this neat thing, and the next thing you know, you're 6 months down the line, and you have a fancy pager, and you were looking for a document review platform. So get your goals set early, know what they are, stick to them. The other thing I would say in terms of consideration, if the companies you're looking at, if the platforms or products you're examining do not play nicely with others, do not walk, run. If you're looking to scale your firm, if the technology pieces you put into place cannot talk to other pieces of software, to other pieces of hardware, to other platforms in a harmonious way, you will have problems down the road.
That's excellent points there. And I like the phrase, be able to used without me looking. Even better than that, I want you to be able to use the tool without me being there. It's training, it's onboarding, the feature set is exactly it. Write out what you need, figure out the things that it has to check, and don't get caught up with it has a mobile app, it has a pretty website. The salesperson took me to the best dinner of my life. Definitely pay attention to the onboarding cost, because that will cost you more than the product. Don't look at the product features and how much that will cost you directly. Look at how much training is this going to be, how much training down the road, how much refresher in 6 months, 12 months, 24 months down the road. Also, always think of security. Is that playing well with others? You shouldn't have to disable your antivirus for your document management system. You should have to disable your web management system for your document management system. Make sure it does play well, and you can get your data in and out. That's the biggest thing today, is make sure your data is portable. How often does a client ask for their entire file? That is a common request. It should meet that. And on the requirements, think of the simple things. Great examples. Clio didn't have middle names. Now they do. How many people have middle names? A lot more than that don't. So those simple things should be in the tool, and always think about your standard scenario and walk through it.
So with respect to the consideration piece, all those things you guys addressed, and maybe this is a question you guys have, how do you get that buy-in from other people within your firm that, hey, these are things we need to consider, and making sure that everyone sees the importance of all these things to consider?
Well, buy-in is exactly where I live, because I get to come to a fancy Clio conference, and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, and I'm seeing all the things you guys are seeing. And I know that there's attorneys out there right now that are like, man, I wish my partner was here. I wish that the rest of the team was here, because if they saw what I saw, that's what they would want. But now I've got to go back, and I've got to go pitch this to the rest of the office, and well, you're the one that's here. They're the ones that's back at the office. That tells me what I need to know about what you're going to be facing when you go back. I think it's important for you to identify, okay, first of all, like, what's that going to be for me? And then how do I sell that? Because I know for me, I've got to know that product well enough that I can sell it. But once I make that decision, I believe a couple of things, and there may be some differences. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Number one, I don't like to leave a back door open. If we're going to make a decision, we're going to go down that road, and that's what we're going to do. And I would strongly encourage you guys that when you make a decision on technology, don't leave the back door open, because if you do, we're attorneys. We love precedent. We love all the things of going back and using the old program again. And you're going to end up running 2 and 3 and duplicative systems. So that's number one, would be you're going to close the back door. Because you're going to close the back door, you're going to give all your staff and all your team a date and when that implementation is going to be. And you're going to tell them the back door is closed. Now, when we make a big change, like when we made for Clio, I make it a big event. And we start talking about how it's going to be on the back end. And we make it into a party. We call it 0 Day, when we're going to change a big technology. When we went to Clio, every person, all 50 of our employees, wore a t-shirt, "Stay calm and Clio on." I'll wear that t-shirt tonight. Catch me if you want to know about how that technology changeover occurred. Why did we do it? Because we knew there was going to be issues. We knew there was going to be problems. There's going to be in any kind of technology that you bring onto it. But when you got the back door closed, they're not going back.
So look for Brian
and I think
in the
that's a
red
big
shirt.
point. Yeah, so you'll be seeing me tonight in the red shirt. You better catch me earlier rather than later.
So there's a couple things I would say in terms of getting that buy-in. The first is the small wins matter. You know, you talk about precedent, especially when you're dealing with attorneys. If you don't have a track record of bringing usable and user-friendly solutions to the table, buy-in's gonna be harder, right? So find opportunities to build those small wins, to build a culture of trust in your technology. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken with people who've come to our firm from other locations, and they're just innately distrustful of anything on the computer. They're like, well, I'm gonna lose my brief. Does it autosave? I don't know what's going on. You need to find the small victories wherever you can. Simple things, this sounds crazy to many people here who like technology, but rolling out of dual monitors was a sea change at our firm. I don't need 2 monitors, I have 1 monitor, I can see everything. And that little win when someone goes, I have my complaint up, and I have my exhibits up at the same time. And that little win makes them comfortable with the technology. It makes them trust you moving forward for other recommendations. And I just want to echo something because it is outrageously important. Tough love. When you are moving to a new platform, close off access to the old platform. Because you have people and you have employees and attorneys who have built up workflows and processes over sometimes decades. And it's not easy to change. It's not a fault on their end. They're trying to be efficient. They're trying to get the work done. But if you're going to close it off, set a gatekeeper and let that gatekeeper be a bridge builder. So when someone comes up to them and says, I need a document and I could only find it in the old system, they can get that document, but they should take that moment to show them how they could have found that document in the new system every time, over and over, and then eventually that person stops coming to your desk to ask how to find their documents.
Or we have other problems.
Yeah, I have that problem. Clio was onboarded before I joined the organization by about 6 weeks. I still, to this day, 2 years later, am running the prior document management tool. It causes me a headache every day. We did a massive IT upgrade this last year, and buy-in, you want to talk about the little things, they do make a difference. We changed out everything: mice, keyboards, computers, monitors, where the servers are at, internet, routers, Wi-Fi. Those big things scare the pants off everyone. But if you get those little wins, they get trust in you. It's getting that little bit of trust. And you got to close those back doors. We called our giant IT upgrade Project Cortez. And the joke was, we're burning the boats behind us and no one's looking back. And it really made a big difference. They kept moving forward and they got that little bit of trust of, oh man, you put Wi-Fi in all the offices. I now can go to every office and get online. I'm not joking, it was 2018, we didn't have Wi-Fi. Now they go to every office and the printers auto map which printer they're at in which office. That seems so minimally stupid, but it's amazing. That little thing took that friction out. Now they just hit print and it comes out of the printer closest to them. And that's such a small win that we were able to do that convinced them, oh man, we need to make this giant accounting change in the Clio. We need to do this big thing. And they trust us and they see you as the expert. That's the other piece. If you're the one who's gonna be championing this, know that manual back and forth. I cannot tell you how many times I've read the Clio manual, how many times I've read Microsoft's Azure deployment guide and things that will put most people to sleep.
Who's read all your manuals?
Yeah. So you got to know everything. And someone's going to ask you that crazy question, and you just got to be prepared for it. And as even lawyers will do, yeah, we'll figure that out and get right back to you. You better get back to them. It's just being that expert and being that subject matter person for them is a huge importance.
So you all touched upon it, and I think it's just as important as consideration and implementation, which is all the things that you were going into, which is the people element of it. So I get calls, which is why I'm up here, technology companies, implementation companies that call and say, hey, we implemented this piece of software, it's fantastic, or whatever, and they're calling us and telling us it doesn't work, the technology doesn't work, but we know it works. It's their people that aren't, as I have coined it, adapting and adopting, right? And so then the law firms call me and go, this technology is awful. We don't know what to do now. We're stuck with it. Why? What's the problem? Well, the people aren't, our employers aren't using it, so it's obviously it's useless. And I say, well, could it be the employees? That what have you done on the back end to really take care of the employees and actually create a mindset for adapting to change? So really, I want you guys to address for us, because it's a big stumbling block, how do you deal with these changes and the disruptions in productivity that come around, and then managing expectations that people have the old way. We always used to do it this way, or it would take me 5 minutes to do it, and now I've got to figure out how to do it, so it takes longer. How do you deal with this with respect to the staff, to the lawyers, and managing productivity to make sure there's not a giant blip on the radar when you go through these changes?
I'm particularly fortunate because I have a law partner that is the yin to my yang. I don't know how many times he'll see me with my headphones on in my office, and I've got my phone in front of me. He's like, if you're listening to that damn lawyerist podcast again, I am tired of that new technology that you're going to ask me for at the next meeting. I know that if I can sell it to John, I can sell it to anybody. You guys have a John at your office. It doesn't matter how big your office is. It may just be 2 people. Or you might be your own John. And if that's the case, what you need to do is you need to find that person first. And you need to have a hard discussion with them, because I know in my practice, when John says no, I don't need to go there. I'm not ready for it yet. And I have to trust that, because I can't wait for that next Lawyerist podcast to find out what I need to try out next. But when it comes to decision, find that person in your firm. It's going to be the person on the other side, and sell them on it. If you can sell that person on it, then the rest of the ship is going to go with you. Does that make sense? And I think that's an important piece of what you're going to be doing, because a lot of you are going to be having those conversations when you leave this conference. And I think if you sell that first, it will make a large decision in terms of where you're going to go next. And then I think that people will go on board. If they believe in your vision, the rest of it is just part of the ride.
So sometimes it feels like there's a little bit of dissonance, I think, when you're trying to get users using the solutions you provided for them. And so the dissonance exists in getting buy-in from the top, right? So if you've got your managing partners, you've got if you're one of those firms who has technology committees, and you're trying to get buy-in, right? Because these are the people who make the decisions. They're the one who say, yep, we're going to move forward on this. So you want to get them on board. But then there's this chasm that exists in day-to-day operations. And that chasm is when the secretary or the legal assistant needs to provide something that is being yelled at to them from the office across from them from their attorney, and their attorney goes, oh, the brief that's in my folder. What does my folder mean, right? So for that legal assistant or that secretary, that folder may be a simple Windows file share. And so they're never going to use any new technology, because when their attorney yells my folder, if that attorney doesn't mean the folder in Clio, they have to be able to get it. They have to be able to get that document to them. So you need to get buy-in up top, but then you need to get down in the trenches, and you need to make a change in how people, and the words, the structure of how your teams operate. And you might have to do it team by team. You may have to pick your hardest nut to crack first, pick that one practice area, that one litigation trial team. Trial teams are particularly good at this, by the way, because they have to work. If they've got a trial running, they don't have time for any of the crap. They have to have what they need, they have to have it when they need it. If you can get them running on a new platform, on a new technology, everyone else is a piece of cake. That's where all your problems are going to come up. That's where your hardest situations are going to come up. So get the attorney from that team, who may not be on the technology committee. Make sure they know what the system is, and then make sure the staff who work with them are able to give them what they need in a timely manner in that system, and you've won that team over. And that also comes down to training. I think training is an important part
So
of that.
find the team that's got the most invested in it, per
Yeah.
se.
Yeah.
And so once they're on board, then everybody else jumps on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very similar to that. We actually are unique. We brought in an executive director who's not a lawyer, and he is a Yale MBA. Smart business guy, amazing smart business guy, but he runs the business like a business. He doesn't look at the law or tell lawyers what to do. So getting his buy-in is actually the toughest in the organization, because he wants to know, why are we paying for this? How else can we do this? How can we do it cheaper? And once you get his buy-in, we go to the attorneys and go, tell us your problems and we'll give you a solution. But it's that setting expectations. Oh, that is the hardest thing. We literally put a new coffee machine in, and people expected that thing to be like Starbucks, and also to file the briefings for them. Because they're like, it has a touch screen. Why is it not doing this? And it's just like, what? No, of course the coffee machine won't do e-filing for you. It's like, just their expectations are crazy, and they never express that to us, but they'll tell everyone and their dog in the office. So it's one of those, trying to figure out what their expectations are. The IT committee, that's a great example. I inherited one. And I changed it about 6 months later from the IT committee to briefing. You guys are now all my champions. Tell me your problems, and I'll come up with solutions. And then I'll come back to you, and you tell me if those aren't going to work. And it really changed the way it is. It went from a 2-hour meeting of them just complaining about the copier, I have to put paper in it. That was an actual complaint. To, oh man, now we really can't do this one thing with this document. Can you help us with it? We need more staff to help this and that. It just 30 minutes and we're in and out once a month. It's such a better meeting.
And he gives them coffee from that new coffee machine.
It's a great machine. Toss it over, leave a little bit of time here.
I found that the problem really is that we're all averse to change, right? And so it's very painful. And when we've got somebody breathing down our neck, like Leon says, he didn't quite put it that way, but I've been in that position. I've been on both sides of that. Where's my document? And then, oh my gosh, I was the junior associate and somebody wanted something from me, so come hell or high water, I'm going to find it wherever it is, and it's going to be easy. Change is hard for people to manage, and when there's so many moving parts, it's overwhelming. And we'll talk about that more tomorrow in terms of the people, but you always have to remember that there are people involved in this process. And they're doing the best they can, but it's scary for them because they want to do their job well, and they're not exactly sure if they're doing it well. So make sure your messaging is well done, in my opinion. Whether you're a team of 2 or 200, if people can actually hear the same messaging, you heard these gentlemen say consistently, it's about a trust element, right? So trust comes from feeling safe. And safety is about hearing the same thing consistently over and over again, right? So make sure whatever you're doing, you're sequencing and you're messaging well. And that may sound like that's not what I'm here for. I'm a lawyer. I'm not, I wasn't trained to be a marketing genius and message and sequence. I get that. All I want you to do is listen for those nuances right now that you're hearing them say, and give it back to them in language that makes them feel good and is consistent and feels safe to them. And we'll address that more tomorrow if you want to come and talk about that. But for now, if that's the tidbit that you take away, I think that's fair, because you heard them consistently say they felt safe. You have to create that atmosphere that people aren't afraid to try it, because they're not going to be told they did something wrong and they're a failure basically at their job, and then everybody else is pointing at them and going, well, we found the document, why didn't you? So that helps with perception. The messaging helps tremendously with expectations and perception. So we have 5 minutes now, and we're assuming you guys have questions for us regarding what considerations should you look for, technology in general, what about implementation, how does that work, and then how do you manage the process in terms of people and change and expectations and dealing with the human side of all of this. Because I hear all the time employees tell me, we feel really isolated. And I say, you've got all these people around you, and you've got technology that connects you all the time, whether you're an office of 5 or 5,000, and they're always saying they feel isolated. So how do we bring that sense of culture back with adequate use of good technology, like Clio offers, for instance? So what questions do you guys have for us? Yes. And is there a mic for you? Do we have mics? No? Okay. Just shout it out, and I'll So she doesn't, the question is, she doesn't have a dedicated technology person. So what's the best way to train people so that when they come back to you with questions, that they have to then, I guess, go spread the gospel and teach others? Is that what you mean?
So it's not eating your day up, right?
Yeah.
You were doing the Lord's work, so thank you. I can't stress this enough. Use and abuse your software provider's support platform and your technology's support platform, right? Almost every major piece of technology you're deploying nowadays, Clio is a good example of that, but everybody, they're really harping on support. That's what you're paying for, right? You're paying for the software, the platform, and you're paying for the support. Use it and teach your staff and your attorneys and everyone to use it as well, especially if you don't have an in-house technology person, because it's going to take that off of your plate, and you're paying for that service anyway. So make use of it. Make use of it.
Yeah, that's a great one. It's use the support that's there. The other thing is the simple things, because I'll admit in our organization, we have a lot of onboarding and offboarding. So it's a lot of onboarding, getting people up to speed. Record your stuff. It is amazing. I'm just going to say it, YouTubers have made this market cheap. The guys with the cameras here have a great setup, but a simple webcam, the one built into your laptop, and just a headset microphone, just record that and just give it to people. Leave the ums in, leave it, just, oh yeah, I clicked on the wrong screen, whatever. Those little tidbits make all the difference. I've started doing like a coffee video that's a 5 to 10 minute daily video I record, and I leave all the little, it's all in there. So I give that to them, and they're like, man, that's a great video on how to do calendar sharing or how to schedule a meeting. Those little things make all the difference. And again, it goes back to trust. They see I'm releasing 50 minutes of training a week that's in 10-minute increments a day. They can absorb that. So giving them that little stuff, and use the technology. Completely lean on your support, lean on the materials they give you, and don't be afraid to say, read this here, and let them go discover on their own.
Brian, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, our firm uses a program called Suite Processes. There's a lot of different programs out like that, but it's perfect for a very small firm, perhaps like what you're talking about, where when we make any kind of, as soon as a problem comes up, we just immediately pop on and just do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as a fix on it. And we always answer, have you looked at Suite Process? That has to be the first question asked before you can have a problem. Because if we've done it once, it should be able to do it again. And it allows for video to just go right on top of that. And even in a very small office, you only have to answer a question once. Now, you know, you're dealing with lawyers, so let's say 3 times. But, you know, not many people are going to have a Harrison that's going to read the entire manual. But really, it's going to be about 4 or 5 main problems you're going to have with any technology.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Yes.
Congratulations.
Mm. Yeah. So it's a small nonprofit, well, growing nonprofit, new Clio user, and without a process, right?
So we had this issue, not with Clio, but with the practice management we had before Clio in the dark times. And It seems simple, but it's hard to do, but you have to do it. You need to get everyone into a room, and you need to close the door, and you need to come out with what we called your file jacket, right? The thing that you used to do on old Redwells. You need to go through and say, here's what is important to this case. Here is who's responsible for various aspects of the life of this case, from filing to trial to follow-up. And you need to have everyone be involved in that conversation who should be. That's a key thing. Identify who actually should be involved in that conversation, and make sure you don't leave out staff. A lot of times I have to remind usually my partners, my associates are usually pretty good about it. But hey, you know who does more work on that case than you do? Your secretary. You know who should be in this meeting about what needs to be done first in this case? Your secretary. Get them in that room and get a piece of paper and say, here's what happens in the life of the case, who's responsible for it. Once you have that down, replicate that into Clio, into your custom fields, into your triggers for your task if you're doing that, and then everyone must live by it. Tough love. Cut off any other previous systems they were using. Everyone must live by that. And as a little tip, the news feed is a great way to keep people accountable.
So on that note, hope that was enough information to get your wheels turning. We're over, so we're going to end, but we're all here and around and happy to answer any questions and take any comments. Thanks for having us.
Thank y'all.